and welcome to the show. So Deen TV has been launching lots of new series in the last couple of weeks. There's a range of them. One of the very important ones to us is called the Health Notebook, and that's presented by Dr Ziyaad Essop. He's here to talk to us about that show, what it's all about, what you can expect to see, and how that show might change your life. Ziyaad, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Now, it's an interesting one, the Health Notebook. That's a show that you've just launched on Deen TV. I think that medical matters on TV works well. Everybody has a medical issue, whether it's a small one or a big one. And somewhere down the line in everybody's life, you might have experienced medical problems, and you will, for sure. That's part of being human being. So your show plays a very important role in communicating various aspects and issues about health to our audience. And so we really welcome that from the channel side. So looking into the content, we need to understand you as a host first. This is my opinion, that for people to understand the show, they need to understand the host and to know where that host comes from. Where does Ziyaad come from? Okay. I'm not going to say that I know you most of my life, but for the benefit of the viewers, let them know.
Okay, where do I come from? Basically, I moved from Johannesburg to Cape Town when I was about 14 or 15, and then I went to a school in the northern suburbs, and I stayed with my granny there for some time. And from the northern suburbs in high school, I then went to the University of Stellenbosch. I studied medicine for about 6 years. I completed my degree in 2006.
You were a bit of an introvert back then, am I right?
Yeah, I was a bit more quieter back then. Yeah.
You're calling it quiet. I call it introverts, because you know why? Because I recall you back in the day. You were, I think, in class with my brother, and I remember you always being quiet, shy, sort of to yourself. So it's a nice transition to television, because those are not the people we normally see on television.
Yeah, it's a completely different experience. I think you need to gather your confidence and your courage. It's different from doing a presentation or lecturing, which I do part-time. So this is a complete different area another field, yeah, or expertise. But I also remember running into you a few times. I remember you used to hire out. You used to be a businessman. Yes. Back then. You used to hire out PlayStations, yes, and things like that. And I remember coming on a number of occasions to come and hire a PlayStation from you.
Correct. Yes, I remember back in the day, the PlayStation just launched, and I got bored of it a couple of weeks later, and I thought, how else do I turn this thing into money or get my money back? I eventually landed up with 10 or 12 of them, and I was earning about $500 for a university student at the time per day, which was good, you know. And this is back you talking about many years ago, which is interesting.
I think you, not only from the gaming section, but I think you were quite involved in your gadgets, and up until today, I think you always, yeah. Still am.
So Ziyaad Essop, so you go off and you study medicine. Was it always medicine? Was it interest there? Was it something that you knew that when you were younger you were going to be, or did this just happen?
It just happened. So I studied for 6 years. I did my medicine, and then I was an intern, which is mandatory, and then I did my community service.
But you had an interest in medical science?
I had an interest in medical science. And then I went on.
Component of it? Was it the aspect, I mean, there are two components. One is the very scientific, and this is my view, the scientific aspects of that, having an interest in medical science. And then there's people that have empathy and sympathy, and they have an interest in assisting people. So where were you on that scale?
I think it was at that time, it was the interest in medical science. But I think as you grow and as you develop, you tend to find the balance between the two, and then your opinions as well change as you grow older. And as you grow older, I think you value life much more. So it's a balance between the two.
Okay, so you go and you finish medical school. And we know that you didn't stop there. You went to go and specialize, and I know you're fairly young, so to be a specialist is quite a feat.
Yes, it is. I mean, it requires a lot of hard work, so it's working and studying. So it's not like I decided to stop practicing medicine. So when you become a specialist, you actually need to go into that particular discipline, and then you need to attend courses, you need to write an exam after your second year, you need to write an exam at the end of the 4 years for you to be a qualified specialist. And that happened around about 2010. And during those 2 or 3 years, I was always engaged with other areas of medicine as well. So I did short courses in teaching. So that just built up my expertise to where I am today. And I'm even going further now.
So now you're doing the MBA now?
Yeah, I'm actually a candidate for the MBA. So I've started class, and it's extremely hard work because now I've moved out of the medical area, and I'm now learning about management and business per se. So at the end of the day, yeah,
I'm still trying to come to terms with why, but I have a feeling that you may be addicted to studying. I see that in you. That's just my opinion, and you seem to have this deep thirst for understanding things, and I see that in your behavior, and perhaps that's where our viewers are going to benefit from you, and that's you seem to be very methodical, research, knowing what you're talking about, and that's what we need in terms of our medical show. So the Health Notebook is born. I remember you coming onto my show talking about, I think it was issues with inner ear problems or middle ear problems. I think we spoke about those things at some point, and we felt at that point that we as a channel had a gap, and the gap was that we have other medical shows also, and they take on the very natural approach, and there are various other modalities that we're looking at, but at the same time we needed somebody that would come on and just talk about the basic things from a medical point of view that affect people every day, and how these things affect their lives and how they could be averted. And that's where the Health Notebook discussion was started with you. From that day, I don't think we've looked back as a channel, and the brand is now out there. Firstly, before we get into the content, how do you feel about that? It's there, it's real now, we spoke about it,
yes,
and it's there.
I'm extremely happy and excited, and I also wish that the viewers can actually move along with me through this journey as well, and I'm grateful to actually provide them with valuable information to actually make their life easier as well. And I think if we move back to just the term the Health Notebook, I think we've had one or two discussions about a title as well. And my approach was to move away from the traditional doctor this, doctor that. And the reason is that medicine or healthcare is not made up by just one person, which is a doctor. It involves a multidisciplinary team, which can be a physio, an OT, a pharmacist. So actually bringing in a multidisciplinary team, I decided to look at another title, as in the Health Notebook. And I think that is just to make it a bit more broader and make us realize the value that the other disciplines can add to healthcare.
Correct, yes. So the show is a weekly show, and I know that your current time slot on Teen TV is 8:30 on a Friday evening. That's when we see the premiere show every week, with 2 repeats somewhere down the line in the week. Now, you've been through a few recordings. Some of the episodes are now up there, and I'm sure viewers are liking the experience because you're bringing in very topical, very experienced other specialists that are known for what they do. Tell us a bit about the content in detail. What do people really expect to see, feel, and understand when they watch the Health Notebook?
Okay, so in terms of content, we will be looking at, firstly, the common medical conditions. And that would mean things like diabetes, hypertension, heart attacks, strokes, epilepsy as well. So those are fairly the general medical conditions. And then we'll also move into child healthcare as well, which is extremely important, and then also male and female specific areas of healthcare is there as well. So it will be fairly broad, and it will cover a variety of topics in those particular areas. And my whole aim is also to bring some of the specialists out there, so that they can also give some of the latest information, and also bring up and upcoming young talent, basically. So it's finding the balance between the two in the healthcare discipline that can add value both to the show and give the viewers the most important up-to-date information.
Let's take one aspect. You talk about diabetes. So when you talk about diabetes and you're talking about the viewer at home and you're talking about the show, do you look into, I'm just trying to understand. So you look into different aspects of diabetes, causes, possible treatments, and lifestyle aspects around all of that.
Yes, so it's more the holistic approach. So we're not just going to give you what's the signs and the symptoms and you need to go to your medical practitioner, but we're going to go a little bit further and we're going to give you practical advice on how you should make simple improvements in order to manage your medical condition. So it's not just taking your insulin or taking your medication, it's going the simpler, basic, fundamental aspects which can improve your medical condition.
Because the GP that we go to today, with all due respect to some good GPs out there, but I think when you go to a GP, it's about, I've got a headache, and it's, take a grandpa, for example. And so I'm having a feeling that your approach is different. It's about trying to get to the root cause of problems, because there's a difference in getting to the root cause of a problem and treating a problem continuously for the next 20 years.
I totally agree with you. So the whole idea is to empower viewers to identify risk factors and manage those risk factors. So it's empowering the viewer on how they can take ownership and responsibility of their health as well. And this can be done in various ways as well. So besides actually the audio-visual content that we're having weekly, we'll probably run later on towards the end of the series quite a bit of downloadable content in terms of pamphlets on what to do. So the viewer can actually just go back and refer to that particular disease or illness, and they will provide up-to-date information on what to do as well. And what you actually mentioned, it's extremely important. Let's take, for example, high blood pressure, and you have a number of risk factors for developing a heart attack. So by us giving you the information on how to manage your obesity and how to manage your high blood pressure, your risk for a heart attack actually decreases. Because if you can make those changes within your life on a daily basis, you're just saving yourself from having the heart attack at the end of the day.
So obviously it's the old cliche and adage of saying prevention is better than cure. And we're going to be talking about all that prevention at the same time while addressing the actual problem at hand.
Yes, so it's the preventative aspects, and then we're also going to be speaking about the actual disease itself and what do you do further on after being diagnosed with the disease.
But in 2016, when we talk about prevention, we're really talking about lifestyle. In the end of the day, am I correct?
Yes.
So how do you bring that into the show?
For example, let's take obesity. So if I bring lifestyle changes in, I would advise in terms of, okay, I know we can't exercise every single day 4 or 5 hours, or let's break it up during the course of the day. Instead of sitting by your chair for 3 or 4 hours, take the break for 10 minutes. Instead of sitting by the computer and eating junk food, let's break away from the computer and eat some nutritious food. So as you can see, it's more a holistic approach. It is how do you break up your common lifestyle, and it depends on the actual topic as well. So if we're speaking about high blood pressure, I would advise, okay, let's take a little bit less salt, or let's make these changes to our particular diet. Let's exercise instead of 3 or 4 hours a day. Let's just do it for 15 to 20 minutes during the course of the day, so that you don't have to exercise the full hour or two afterwards. So it's about adapting your lifestyle to your current work environment as well.
Going back to Dr. Ziyaad Essop, you as a person, and we spoke about this early on in the show when we spoke about the aspect of, I know you from back in the day, so you go through the formal training, and media can be daunting. It is a transition for most people. But sometimes people come into the studio and they might be very prolific speakers and very well educated people, but when the lights go on and the cameras go on, something different happens, and that anxiety level just starts going through the roof. And when that happens, people just, they're not themselves. So I think you've crossed that first bridge, and that was to get those first episodes out, and things will only get easier for you. But has it really dawned on you that you've taken a big gap now, and that gap was going from what you normally do into a space that many people don't delve into?
Yes, I totally agree with you. The anxiety and stress was there during the first episode, and I think
we normally call an ambulance for first shows.
So yeah, so it was yeah, it was a very stressful time, and what I needed to do is I just needed to gather my confidence. And as you will see, as the show progresses, I'll become a little bit more comfortable and a bit more confident, because it's a different environment. You're in front of a camera, you're nervous, you're trying to think, oh, should I say this? And I've been a guest on a number of shows, including your show as well, and it's different being a guest and it's different being a host. I think it's harder to be a host than to be a guest.
Of course, it's the same thing as being the pilot and the passenger on the plane. The passengers can do what they want to, they can fall asleep and they can just travel along, while the pilot just needs to keep it going. And that's what happens on these shows. But I think that things only get better, as you're saying. And that brings me to another aspect, and that is that, does the show have any social outlet? And are we looking at social development on the side of the show? So we're busy building a brand. Does the show look at going out, making a difference in society, having active on-the-road portfolios that people could interact with the show on, for example, things like that? Can people send us some questions that we can perhaps answer related to their medical issues? I know that you choose a topic every week, and I know that you're going to deal with that topic, but can people interact with you and maybe have some simple things answered that might make a big difference in their lives?
Okay. So firstly, the content would be available on the Dean TV YouTube links, and so people can actually go back to the content and watch the show over again, which is number one. And then what we would be providing within the next few weeks is a Facebook page for the Health Notebook. And I think that would be the primary mode of communication. We will try to advise members of the public. So that's another form of communication. And we'll even go one step further as the show progresses. We'll try to actually go into the life of a person that has a particular medical condition, and we'll understand it from their perspective. Because what normally happens is, if you go to a general practitioner and if the person has arthritis, yes, it's fine verbally, but we need to be able to understand how does it affect their life. So we'll go to the person that has arthritis, we'll see what is his activities of daily living, what does he struggle with, and it actually makes us appreciate how that person copes. So it's going back and understanding the person from the ground that has the medical condition. So that's the engagement that we're planning to have during the course of the show.
There's always the Dean TV SMS line that's running all the time during the show, where people can SMS their comments and their ideas and their questions, and we'll look at you answering those questions as we go along. An interesting thought came to mind was when you said that you're going to go out and sort of follow the trail of a particular patient, and in that way look at their life and the issues that impact on their disease, whatever it might be. It's a very interesting one, because in that way, when you and your medical expertise advises such a person, for example, let's be hypothetical about this and let's be pragmatic about this. You follow a guy that's got diabetes, and you spend half a day with him looking at his eating habits and understanding his medication, and I don't know what else you guys do to get to determinations. And you sit with such a person and you make determinations and you advise this person. That same information is obviously picked up by the viewers of your show.
Yes.
And that could impact, because they could be the very person that you have spent half a day with trying to solve their problems.
Yes. Yes, I totally agree with you. So what they can actually do is they can understand the content, and then they can actually see how can I actually apply this to my life to improve my medical condition. So it empowers them as well to make decisions and to improve their lifestyle. And it's also about understanding the person as a whole, and not just seeing him, okay, you diabetes and you high blood pressure, or you are Mr. So-and-so that has arthritis. So it's understanding the person as a whole as well.
Did you ever think back in the day that you would be on television?
No, I've never,
Ever crossed your mind?
no, it never crossed my mind.
Was desire ever there?
Yes, the desire was there, but I think if the opportunity presented itself, then I would take it, yeah.
There are other factors around television which you will be experiencing shortly, And that was TV life does not end on TV. It starts there. That's the starting point. So there are all these invitations for public engagement and come to this event and that event and all of that. And I'm hoping one day, and I know soon, you're going to be growing into that and making a difference within the medical field in that space specifically. Because I feel that the medium might enhance what you're doing. You're reaching much more people. We sit in the office many times talking about medical issues when you come and visit, and if those conversations are recorded and they are aired, so many more people will be benefiting. And I suppose that's the encapsulation of the Health Notebook. It's taking the message out there. It's taking the message out there, making the viewers much more aware as well, empowering them as well to take certain decisions for themselves. Who in your life supports and supported you to do what you do? I think there's a lot of people that actually stands out. Some people do. Yes. I mean, some of them have passed on as well. And I think my granny has been, or she passed away. I think she's been one. Too long ago that she passed away? Yeah, she passed away about 2 years ago. I think she was one of those anchoring people that actually played an important role as well in my life. And there's many others, my parents as well. So there's a lot of people that has actually contributed to who I am today. So it's not just one person, and and I'm grateful as well. What's your message to them? To those people, I'd just like to thank them and appreciate it for what they've done as well. In conclusion, one reason and one message to our viewers why they should be watching the Health Notebook. Okay, so the one reason is that we're moving away from the medical language, which is number one. We will be presenting in a simple, understanding or understandable language, which the viewers can actually use to improve themselves. It's there for them. It's there to empower them. It's there for them to take ownership and responsibility of their health as well. This was a concern from our side also. Now that you're mentioning that, we were thinking that you're always going to bring on other medical expertise and professionals, and so how do we tone that down? And I think you are effectively saying that you guys will be toning that down so that the layman out there can understand their conditions and understand what needs to be done by maybe the reduction of jargon. Or yes, I mean that's an extreme. I mean, when you speak, yes, it's fine for the medical community to speak about high technical terms in medicine, but it's getting the message across to the basic person on the street. So if it means us breaking it down to describing, for example, your heart is an engine, I think we're going to be moving towards taking simple descriptive measures and trying to associate it with medical conditions. Think of your veins as plumbing. Trying to make that correlation is important. Correct, yes. Ziyaad, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I know that as we go down the line, like I've said in the past, we'll catch up with you again as the show develops. Maybe talk to you 20 episodes down the line, see how it's going, how is the content developed, what are the things that people have been saying about the show. So we'll have time to catch up with all those things. And we thank you for taking on the task of doing the show and coming on the show today. Thank you very much for having me on the show. Thank you, Ziyaad. Dr Ziyaad Essop, and he's the host of our brand new series called the Health Notebook. There's a lot of information going on in that show. There's a lot to learn. So we do invite you to watch the show every Friday evening at 8:30. Until next time, goodbye.